having founded the first hotel, right? What inspired you to?
Should I start my story from the beginning?
Please.
Yeah.
Now's that time.
So Alicia Keys was in the area doing her philanthropic work. Delegation arrives at the door and say, can they speak to the manager? I come out. We'd like you to close up the entire restaurant. We're bringing VIP.
How can I do what I need to do well, but at an inexpensive cost?
If your team is also not aware of what the KPIs are operationally, then you as a management team will never achieve those.
Pat. It's Pat on brands. Watch how you branded, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man. Better be branded, man. A pat from the pat is a pat on the brand.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Pat on Brands podcast with Pat and
Mpumi! Even Tawang is feeling the vibe. Okay?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode with myself, Mpumi Vundlha, and Pat Mahlangu.
Yeah, how you doing?
Hey, I'm not sure.
How have you been, should I ask?
I've been well. I mean, we are recording this post our Easter weekend or Passover weekend or other people long weekend.
So you did some...
I ran on the Monday. I ran on Monday.
Yeah.
Did my young 6K. It's the first time I've, in a long time, hey, I'm a footer, guys. But I ran it in full. So my challenge is to run the 10K under an hour. I saw you did a 10, but your pace. You're doing comrades pace.
I slowed down.
So you'd even do 5?
Yeah, I mean...
I tell you a sprinter.
At my peak, I used to do 4:30 per kilometer.
Shucks.
At my peak. When I was
what were you running
younger.
away from?
My problems.
Yeah, I see.
But yeah, I used to run very fast. I think I'm slow now. I mean, I picked up quite a few kgs.
Yeah. And also Pella.
That's working against.
What is that thing called? You used to say you'd put in engines. Now you're not putting engines.
Yeah.
Now you're building brands.
Yeah, you know, and we're doing all sorts of things. But yeah.
Okay.
Business-wise, are you pumping? How's Lenala?
Yeah, I think let's not be overzealous with our words. We're moving.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's autopilot at the moment. I think I just need to get my head back into the space of work, business. I think just everything is everywhere, school. But I'm sure I'll realign.
Yeah, you do a lot of things. At some point, I guess you need to just do one thing.
Yeah, I was saying, it's great to do one thing, but I'm not wired like that. I've tried before, but that's not how I'm wired. And I get really bored really quickly. And then I find that there's too much time and then it's wasteful time. Yeah. So I'd rather fill my time with things that actually make sense for me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and yourself?
I feel better.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely to hear.
I mean, I've accepted what I cannot change. I think I'm at peace.
Okay, that's good.
I'm at ease.
I'm glad.
Yeah. I mean,
he's running away from me. We're supposed to have an ops meeting, but he's running away from me.
Yeah, but I think we find just the YOBAs, that baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we announced our returning sponsor / partner.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting. Lunch Bar is back with us.
Yeah.
That's encouraging. And we have a media partner, a big one.
And that will be announced in good time.
Just waiting for that, contract to be signed. But the deal is really promising. Actually, it's at the very advanced stages. So do not be surprised when the YOBAs is televised.
Yeah. And our audience there, let us know how you are. I mean, we keep forgetting. I think we always talk about our pulse. We do a pulse check between the two of us. But we do have entrepreneurs out there. Tell us how you're feeling when you're listening to this. How's business going? We always say, do share your burning questions. I think we've had a few people who've come back with some questions that we'll also answer in the coming episodes. So yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, we have got a very exciting guest.
Yeah, without further ado.
Yeah.
We do. We have for me, the first time I met her, I must be honest, every time there's people you meet and you're like, oh my gosh, what a moment. I remember when Pat was like, oh my gosh, what a moment.
Yeah.
And we had I think it was about an hour and a half. We were supposed to go present and we just were the little kids and just in awe,
Yeah,
of Mrs. Lindy.
Every encounter with Mrs. Lindy
and
is
soft spoken, tells it like it is,
Yeah.
and move.
Do you ever get angry?
I'm trying not. Do I get a drum roll?
Oh, we can. We have.
I want to be in the vibe.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Pattern Brands podcast.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Do I ever get angry?
Yeah.
I do. I'm human, Pella.
And do you like? Oh, you like?
Yeah,
I don't like what you did today.
Yeah.
So at work, I'm very considered in everything I do because I know people are always watching my reactions.
Okay.
So I've learned to manage that. But maybe amongst my family, that's where I let rip.
So they have a different story. They can tell a different story.
Not all the time, but when I get pushed, I get pushed.
But I mean, I can imagine. I mean, I'm sure as a parent, my dad would always say that I had to forgive you before you guys were born.
Wow.
Because no matter how sweet you can be, you're still kids. So you're still going to make me mad. You're still going to make me angry. You know?
So in the morning, I pray for patience. I say, God, please.
So lovely to have you.
Absolutely.
Actually, this is the first time we have someone in your position.
Yes.
We must say.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
But also you're
What an honor.
an entrepreneur at heart.
Yes.
You know, having founded the first hotel, right?
Yeah, the first hotel, Soweto Hotel.
In Soweto, you know.
Soweto.
How did that come about?
Let's be clear though, so that I don't eat other people's thunder. It was the first 4-star black woman owned because there was a hotel that Protea owned once upon a time in Diepkloof.
Okay.
But in terms of a hotel that had 4 stars and that was black female owned, it was the first.
Wow.
Sure.
Holiday Inn at the time. I actually branded it Holiday Inn.
Is it?
And then later on
Changed.
Yeah.
Changed. And how did it come about? Like, what inspired you to?
Should I start my story from the beginning?
Please.
Yeah.
Now's that time. Now's that time.
You see, now she's taking control of this conversation.
No, because if
Which
I
is
tell
what we
you,
love.
if I tell you Soweto Hotel, then you
might
kind
go
of
back.
miss out the context
Okay.
of what made me love hotels.
Yeah.
So my
Gotcha.
background is I love telling people I'm a hotelier.
And it's about customer service. I see it.
Yeah. My late father was pushing me to be a doctor, to be a medical doctor. So I did all the sciences. I was a good daughter. And I did all the sciences, history, chemistry, biology, maths, physical science, blah, blah.
Is that why you have so many friends who are doctors?
It's just a coincidence.
Okay.
I have many friends from many portfolios. Yeah. But I think my parents traveled throughout our lifespan, and it was because they lived in exile. And so I think when I analyze it and look back, it's a combination of they were just very hospitable themselves. There were always people in our house. My mom was always entertaining and so on. So there was that aspect. Done with the A levels, advanced levels in the Cambridge system. I then just was bold enough to say, I want to do hotel management to my mom and dad. My dad was so devastated. He listened to Handel's Messiah. You remember, the Handel's Messiah choir? He listened to it on repeat the whole night.
Sure.
And drank his whiskey.
Yeah.
But long story short, I studied in Switzerland and the US. And now he was fully vested as my mom was when they understood that it was actually a whole career.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, as he said, peeling potatoes, my child.
Absolutely.
So my first experience, real hotel experience, was with Hyatt. I started with Hyatt in the States, working in Washington, D.C. But on one of my returns home on a visit, I had seen a big billboard that said, Park Hyatt coming to Johannesburg, Rosebank, Johannesburg.
Yes, I remember.
1995 opening. And I said, I'm going to work there.
Yeah.
And so I went back with intention, made sure that I spoke to the HR people. And I spoke to what was called the Hyatt International people, was interviewed, and I had a job.
Was it back as 1995? So it was a revamp that they've been doing?
No, so what we opened, I mean, we were building. I was part of the team that was laying and literally watching the construction company finish.
Sure.
So it started as early as 1991.
Oh, hectic.
And it just was being built. And then the billboard, I think I can't remember whether it was 1993 when I came home. Sure. And there was a billboard. and it said, coming to you soon, 1995. So we opened.
Okay.
228 rooms. I was an assistant front office manager, and I was just, walking on clouds. It was wonderful because I had not lived in South Africa. I had lived all over the world in the continent. Swaziland is where I was born.
Oh.
And my parents then lived in Holland, where my dad studied on a sabbatical. And then we moved to Zambia and then in Kenya. So my studies were in Switzerland and the US. So coming back with a Bachelor of Science degree in hotel, restaurant, and institutional management, I think gave me a solid background in terms of why I wanted to do what I was doing. And I moved very quickly. It was sometimes uncomfortable. I was always the only of whatever, only first Black woman, only this around the exco table, only and so on. And that was sometimes frustrating, but I think I also enjoyed that I worked for companies that were interested in building and bringing in, others. So it was also a moment for me and a time to assist in mentoring and growing and being part of that, even though I was young. Then right about 1999, I felt itchy. I always get itchy in 5-year batches or. Gosh. So I moved.
She feels itchy every day.
Do you do that?
No, I do. I do have a 2-year itch. It's usually a 2-year. Then I'm like, okay, I'm too comfortable. What's going on? Yeah.
So then I moved to work for the Department of Environmental Affairs and Tourism. Someone said to me, "We're looking for people in tourism. You'll see an ad in the papers." And indeed, I applied, and I got the job of Chief Director of Tourism Support. It was such an exhilarating year. I lasted 1 year.
Oh, that's when
But it's just about that push, that how it was.
I
Quality,
loved
quantity.
it. Everything about it.
So it was when the tourism ministry was merged with environmental affairs.
It used to be environmental affairs. So all the things like Sun Park, South African national parks were part of it.
Okay.
And my portfolio was responsible for working with South African tourism that does the marketing of this country.
Oh.
And my other portfolio was training and tourism support and development. Okay. And and international relations. So, I mean, it was like a jam-packed, intensive, we're going to teach you about tourism and the world in a year. And I didn't know I was going to be there for a year. I thought I was going to be there for a lifetime.
Okay.
I thought. And I traveled. I got to understand the big picture. Because remember, when you're in a hotel, it's about that hotel and that brand. And yes, you're aware of other brands. But suddenly tourism was about our country.
Yeah.
It was about the flora, the fauna, the mountains, the sea. It was seas. It was about so much more culture, food, music, attractions, etc. So I was just on steroids. It was wonderful.
Sure.
And understanding how that value chain is formed in terms of the whole tourism experience, understanding the contribution tourism makes to the country and so on. So round about just the end of that year, I was approached by Southern Sun. Someone came to talk to me. I was headhunted and I couldn't resist. I mean, I had been dreaming to be a general manager. So it was like, this is the one.
The time has arrived.
So I went to... I became a general manager. Phakama Lindiwe. Exactly. So and then again, first Black female general manager, first Black general manager at the Intercontinental Sandton Towers.
Sure.
So that was beautiful. Learned a lot. It was quite a journey. And it was just before the World Summit on Sustainable Development. In government, I had been part of that preparation and getting that event.
So now you're on the other side.
Now I was on the other side.
The receiving.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it was just amazing watching how Sandton became the United Nations precinct. And Nkosazana Zuma was Minister of Foreign Affairs at the time. Yeah. And how the flag of South Africa came down and the flag of the United Nations went up. And then all these presidents raining in on Sandton. My hotel had 16 suites, so I had 16 heads of state.
Yeah.
So
your trees.
Fast track.
So in an instance like that, how's the energy and the pressure in the hotel when you have such high profile guests?
It's intense.
How many Fs are being thrown around?
It's intense because
I told you.
First of all, that happens all the time, but it was really intense. And you're a 5-star hotel, so the expectation is higher. But with each head of state, you had to meet with each embassy and meet with the protocol officers, the government officials from South Africa, the people from that country. Say, for example, if the king of wherever, or had a good example, we had the president of Algeria, Bouteflika, staying with us.
Sure.
And so you have to know what he eats, when he eats, what he's going to, you have to know the menu, you have to work with the chefs, you have to go and buy what they want, and make sure it's all there. His arrival at Waterkloof airport that night when he arrived was about midnight. And I slept literally. You know when they say sleep in your boots? I slept in my boots. I'm not joking.
Sure.
And my alarm clock went off at 11:30 because I knew he's arriving at the door 12. Everything is set. You've done it in the daytime. It's all set. And my drive to the hotel was a 7-minute drive. And it's at night or midnight, so there's no traffic. And because it was such a highly secure environment, I couldn't park in my usual VIP GM parking. I had to park far away. And as I was parking, someone called and said, he's at the door. I ran in those boots, high-heeled boots. And I ran. You're talking about running, you guys. I used to run. And literally, his motorcade came in. Whee! And I had to stand there cool as a cucumber. I was dripping in sweat. But I had to stand there and look like I had been there all along. That's amazing. Those are the high pressure moments, but fun later on. Yeah, lots of great moments. We had Clinton, we had Madiba. At different times, we had African presidents. We had Mswati of Eswatini.
Yeah.
We had wonderful moments. Mswati wanted shark fin soup.
Oh, wow.
I'm like,
where did you get that?
Where did he eat that? But we found it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Soweto Hotel was born 5 years after my being a general manager at the Sandton Intercontinental Sandton Towers. I got my itch.
Again, 5 years?
And I decided to start a company called ZATIC, Zuga African Tourism Investment Corporation. So now I was dreaming. I was going to have this company, I was going to have hotels, etc., and I was going to look at the entire tourism value chain. But I started where I was comfortable with hotels.
Sure.
A partner, and we formed a little company. Soweto Hotel, everything happens for a reason, I always believe. It was advertised in the newspapers in the Sowetan. A friend said, hey, let's form a consortium. Did you see in the papers? So I checked the papers, and indeed, they were looking for someone to start a hotel, hotel experience, funding, female preferred. And only thing I didn't have was the funding. But I had everything
take to
else.
the other two. And those are currency.
And those are enough.
Yeah.
And it was currency to walk into IDC. So it was the beginning of many firsts, the beginning of understanding how to read those briefs, how to respond correctly, how to prepare yourself, presentations. Some of it I had learned while I was in the hotel industry. A lot I was learning on the fly. And going into the IDC and presenting credentials.
Sure.
And learning how to make a proposal for the funding. There were many good things that stood in my favor, my experience.
Of course.
Because I had now been in the business for some time. But also my ability to convince the bank that once the funding had been released, they could put their money behind this horse and the team. So it was myself and another individual from the hotel industry. So I think that really helped us a lot. We got the funding. Some of it we had to go and beg, borrow, and steal.
So you had to build this hotel from...
So it was located and is located at the Walter Sisulu Square of Dedication. It's so significant in its location in that that's where our Freedom Charter was adopted in 1955. 56. I always mix it with the Women's March.
Yeah.
And so that significance was, for me, it was like goosebumps. It was like such a round, a full circle moment. Because I grew up in exile. I grew up hearing about the Freedom Charter. I could, repeat it in rope. We, the people of South Africa, hereby declare that South Africa belongs to all of us, etc., etc. We learned all of that. So now an opportunity to put a hotel in this national heritage site. The structure was already up. We just had to come and finish it. It was intended to be an office. We now had to remodel it into a hotel. Putting together a team, putting together the construction team. All of that was new. But also learning that, don't make any mistakes. Everybody's watching. So even if you have to pay premium to make sure that it's right.
No cutting corners.
No cutting corners, which would never have happened because I wasn't brought up that way.
Yeah.
But what I'm pointing out is, now that I know what I know, I probably would have looked for the most cost-effective way of doing it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then you went for world-class everything. But one of the good things was I still had lots of good relationships with the Intercontinental Hotel Group, who are the brand owners of the Intercontinentals, Holiday Inns, etc. So I was able to go back to them and write to them and tell them, look, I'm now doing this and I need a brand. And so we put up the Holiday Inn flag, and it was the first Holiday Inn in a township ever. Sure. I don't know if there'll ever be another. And that for me was such an experience because first of all, it brought a lot of creds, and the IDC people just then stamped everything, and boom, the money was there because now they were like, oh, there's a brand behind it. There's an international brand behind it.
Wow. So interesting. So had you called it Lindy's Hotel?
But later, I don't know. I don't know.
Who's Lindy?
Yeah, exactly. But later on, the story continues. I'm now paying every month for this brand. I'm in a franchise agreement, 23 or 25-year franchise agreement. Every month I must pay, whether I have guests or not. The reservations come in the morning, and then in the evening, they're all cancellations because it's our African brothers and sisters applying for residency in South Africa. So they have to show that they have accommodation. Wasn't that, it was uncanny. Sure. So I get excited in the morning and say, oh, we have 20 reservations. And then in the evening, they'd be canceled or there'd be no shows. So that didn't work. I quickly learned I'm going to be arrested because I'm going to run out of money here. Sure. I must make a decision. And I quickly went back to the Holiday Inn people and I said, I think we've made a mistake. Yeah. The real guests who want your brand are still staying in Sandton. They haven't yet become comfortable with staying in Soweto. I can't afford this on a sustainable way. Therefore, can we, terminate this agreement? They were very kind in the sense that I didn't even get the heavy penalties. I just had to pay up for the end of that month, and call it a day. So now I sat down with a bunch of...
Was that like your first sort of brand experience?
Yes.
Or just realizing the importance of branding?
It was my first experience outside of a corporate environment that was all structured and ready-made. This was me now in the driving seat, creating. But also recognizing that, yes, the international brand was important. It got me through certain hoops. So there was a reason. It got me the credibility. It got me the visibility. It got me the awareness. But now I had to call a group of young people, and they were in marketing and design. And I said, create a new brand for me. And they said, but why are you going so far? Soweto is a brand. Why are you looking so far?
Sure.
This is the Soweto Hotel.
And
so that's how the Soweto Hotel was created.
Sure.
And from that day on, it was just, history. It's now the Soweto Hotel and Conference Center. And
so you also have now conferencing
there's conferencing facilities. So it was such a lesson, and it worked very nicely leading into 2010. There's the World Cup coming. There's teams looking for accommodation. We are now part of all of this. Many people are still saying the Holiday Inn because it's etched in their minds. So, I rode that wave and hung onto the coattails. But now with the World Cup, that was another moment to elevate the new brand, the Soweto Hotel. We were now into arrangements. You know how FIFA has that whole accommodation arrangement and the rates and so on. And so it was also beautiful to see the hotel fill up, get known internationally. We had the Mexican team, we had the French team.
Wow.
We had Alicia Keys come through. We had
Actually, I was about to ask who slept there.
she didn't sleep there. She was doing a project in Soweto, but she came for dinner. And one evening, the night that South Africa played France, or was it Croatia? I forget, or the Ukraine, I forget. Yeah. But it was one of the days that South Africa played. So Alicia Keys was in the area doing her philanthropic work, working with youth groups. Okay. And this delegation arrives at the door and say, can they speak to the manager? I come out and they say, we'd like you to close up the entire restaurant. We're bringing a VIP. I said, it's the height. It's the World Cup. And then I quickly thought, no, but everyone is at the stadium.
The stadium, yeah.
Sure, I can close the hotel. Who is it? Ma'am, this is between you and us. It's Alicia Keys. I said, are you going to pay? No problem, ma'am. So they paid. And she came in and she had the restaurant to herself. And of course, the staff were just oozing and we were all over.
So she's eating alone?
Eating alone with her team.
Oh, okay.
You know, there's about 2-3 cars. And then outside, there's a whole thing going on, paparazzi, because it's
people know that.
No, nobody knows.
Oh,
nobody knows Alicia Keys is in my hotel.
So you can keep a secret.
Of course, that's what we do.
But aren't hotels like that though?
That's what we do. Wow. So outside is a celebration of what's going on at the stadium. So the World Cup is going on, and there's a stage, and there's entertainment, and the entire Klip Town in Soweto is there. Get dance. I forget who was entertaining. One of our South African people, groups. So Alicia Keys comes out now. She's going home. And big guys, 6 feet around her. Yeah. And then she looks at the stage and she looks at her people, and I'm there hovering and like, quick guys, get in your car. Yeah. Then she breaks away and she runs with another, whoever, her sidekick, jumps on the stage. Yeah. And she gets into the groove and she starts singing and she starts dancing.
People got a free show.
Then one of this woman, a colored woman from El Dorado, she says, is that Alicia Keys?
I can only imagine.
What?
And then the crowd clicked and the security, this guy just grabbed her. Yeah. Pulled her by her waist, put her into the Land Rover there, and just they sped out. And it was such a beautiful moment.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah, those are the heydays. Yeah. Soweto Hotel was such an experience. It was not an easy one. It's still open, but in very difficult situations because so much has happened economically in our townships.
Sure.
Our government promises a sort of environment where hotels and tourism and anything to do with tourism should thrive. Yeah. But the infrastructure and the environment is not conducive to that. So the management team running it is really battling. It's not easy. I'm still a shareholder, and the management team wants to continue, but I don't know how sustainable it is in the current environment. But it had its heydays.
Sure.
Yeah. I want to go into ops now because I think that's a lot you must have learned. And over how long was that span?
So that was from 2005. We opened Soweto Hotel in 2007. I was there till 2015, and then I joined the Birchwood
Hotel.
But the Birchwood approached me. Yes, they approached me, and we struck a partnership.
Okay.
So Soweto Hotel and Birchwood were partnered. One was in the east, one in the south. Very non-competitive.
Yeah.
But I was now part of the management team and the executive committee of Birchwood and located at Birchwood. So it took us into a new environment. I also now moved into a space I was not familiar with. I wasn't so familiar with that 3-star conferencing environment, and also working with entrepreneurs, because it's a family-run business. Birchwood, and so also dealing with a different mindset, very entrepreneurial, very, everything goes, anything can go, say no to nothing and make money.
Just make
Bottom
money.
line.
Make sure the beds, there's someone on the bed, there's people on those beds.
But I think the value I brought was my structure, the fact that I had worked with corporate. I had a process in terms of how operations must be run. Yeah. They were very good at marketing, very good very good at brand awareness, very good at relationship building. So I learned a lot about, how important it was to build on those platforms.
Sure. No, we're saying sure quite a lot today. I don't think you realize with Nat we are also like
I was just starstruck and learning
and learning. And I know someone is gonna get into the comments and say you should have
probed further.
But due to limited times, obviously we've got some questions that we'd really like to get into.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously with the experience from having worked for big multinational brands, having started your own thing, having now, what is the relationship like between marketing and ops?
So since 2015, I joined City Lodge Hotel. At the time, it was called City Lodge Hotel Group. Mm-hmm. We've recently gone through sort of like a tweaking and a rebrand, and we now are City Lodge Hotels. And my role is the Chief Operating Officer of the group. I started off as an operations director, and in 2018, I was promoted to Chief Operating Officer. So it's been a wonderful journey in how do I say, in sort of, I don't know if it's the culmination yet, because I believe we don't know the end, right?
Gotcha.
We're walking in God's dreams. I don't know what he's got waiting for me. But it's been just a wonderful culmination in bringing together all the things that I have learned in my journey in the hotel industry and in the tourism industry to becoming what I am. Along the way, I've had the opportunity of being exposed to South African tourism as a board member. I've had 2 instances where I was a board member. And in recent times, during COVID, we were trying our best as we could in terms of that era. But I was also the chairperson of the Tourism Transformation Council of South Africa. So these are all sort of touch points and highlights in my career that have brought in the importance of marketing vis-a-vis operating. And coming back to my long ago experience in 1999, where I said I now saw the big picture. We can't market a country, we can't market South Africa successfully if we don't have on the ground the operators and the entrepreneurs and the businesses and the corporates, all the elements that make that experience. So if you're the hotels, there's space for big corporates and there's space for a B&B. If you are in the travel aspect, there's space for your big buses that take groups of 60 people, and there's space for the Uber. And so on it goes. And so it's just so important. When I present my chief operating report, I always start with what's the global picture? What's happening globally? Which markets are moving and why? What are the source markets that South Africa is dependent on? For example, the Chinese market is one of the key source markets of South Africa, one of them, and growing. But because of the implications of COVID, they were the last to come online in terms of moving and beginning to travel. And so we need to be cognizant of which markets are open and closed, because when that is happening, we must also make do with what is available. And as City Lodge Hotels, we've always recognized the importance of our domestic and local market. And COVID sharpened that for us. So during COVID, we sat around our virtual meetings and said, what do we do the minute those restrictions are lifted? How have we positioned ourselves? And we positioned ourselves with a number of things. First of all, making sure that we were able to be easily accessible. So if you wanted to make a reservation, you could do it online. You didn't have to come into the hotel. You could do it online. You could pay online.
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm talking about something that happens anyway. Yeah, but it pushed us into even refining it and fine-tuning it more.
People making that process a lot easier.
That's right. People didn't want to touch things. They didn't want to come into a hotel and had to be touching pens. They just wanted their key and to get to the room.
So you've registered by the time you arrive?
Exactly. And even that, when you came into the hotel, you didn't want to be paging through a guest services book. We were pushed into the world of QR codes faster than we intended.
Yeah.
And suddenly you could get all your information on a QR code. And then it said to us, we we don't need paper. We don't need to print. We're saving. We don't need business cards.
Even the menus.
Yes, we had to. You remember they were on what are they called now?
On a little QR code stand. On a Perspex. Perspex stand.
And remember, we thought that QR codes were dead. It's interesting how that technology came back to life.
I haven't printed a business card since 2019. Wow. Because I don't need them. And so,
you're moving with the times, I guess. Because in every conference, I'm sure, do you have a card?
I say, let's open our WhatsApps and let's scan each other. Let's go to settings and let's scan each other.
Got you.
We're going to World Travel Tourism, World Travel Market in Cape Town next week from the 10th to the 12th.
Yeah.
And all of us have now got QR codes with all our information.
Oh, yes, so someone can
scan everything in terms of who you are and have it on, So that's what has happened in terms of operations, technology, and us just getting closer. So we've spoken about it. It was the check-in processes. It was the guest services. it was the menus. And then not only did we do that, we started saying, how much better can we get also in using technology to market ourselves? So, of course, there's what I call the OTAs, the online travel agents. And online travel agents, you know them, bookings.com, hotelbeds.com, Agoda, Expedia, etc., TripAdvisor. So people are booking through those platforms. So as City Lodge Hotels, we have to be present and we have to make sure that we are visible. And so again, what you market, if you are on a particular platform, you have to constantly check that, is your imagery good? Are your pictures current? Is your branding correct? What does the end user see? What does the guest see? Do they know their promotions? Are those promotions properly marketed? Et cetera, et cetera. Are they updated? And we've seen that if you are not updating, you also don't get seen. And we get reminded by some, like Expedia will say, this month.
Algorithm,
Yes, they'll tell you this month, this hotel got 97% visibility. So you want to know, what was the 3%?
Yes.
Was it because the picture was outdated?
Yeah. Or what was the problem?
I didn't have a menu.
Sure.
That's an important part. We also use a tool, a forecasting tool called Predictive Insights. And Predictive Insights enables us to forecast better and to apply supply and demand techniques in our best available rate. We call it BAR. So I'm sure as users of hotels, you would all know that when you're looking for the best rate, you shop around. So you'll go to different platforms. So we need to always make sure that our rates are attractive on the online travel agents, your bookings.coms and others. But we also want the guests to come directly to us. It's cheaper. We call them channels.
Is it cheaper?
Yes.
Because there's no middleman.
So the minute there's a middle person.
The experience I had last time, for example, with booking.com online, and when you call the hotel, you see the same rates.
It could be the same rate. But you coming directly to me is cheaper for me as a business person. Because I have to pay commission. Fee.
Oh, yes, that 6% or whatever percentage that
exactly
the OTA gets.
So we understand the importance of OTAs. They're so important to us. We couldn't do without them. But we also, as operators, understand the importance of hooking a guest. That once you've acquired that guest, win them over and let them know that it's even easier and more convenient to book directly. I mean, the OTA is going to hate me for saying this, but that it's fact.
That is the value chain. I mean, that is the business.
So where does that move us into? It moves us into loyalty programs.
I was going to say retention strategies now.
Yeah.
But Cicely, before you go into that, I think I want to maybe touch on also, and just for our audience, I think we know usually marketing always going against, it's almost the battle of the CFO and the CMO.
And the COO.
And then that's where then I want to come in, because usually we don't then really think of ops and logistics. And by definition, correct me if I'm wrong, with the little business management I've learned, but it's around managing, like you're saying, that experience. So at the end of the day, if marketing is showing the beautiful pictures, but if the operational structures of the business aren't good, the experience then is not good, which comes back then to you know, the cleaning wasn't great. And that's where you come in, is to say you crack the whip in making sure that you are a function that is supporting what we've said, this is who we are, and making sure then the operational system is working. But do you find then you do have then the issues that marketing and finance have, or you're on the fence with finance, where you're understanding you're more from a savings perspective, or is it about managing the funding or the business finances?
So I've always, my position as a chief operating officer is a new one for me.
Okay.
And a new one for the company. There was never a chief operating officer.
Okay.
It's the first time.
Oh, hectic.
You are a lady of
first.
First.
No, I think the name is she's the first. I'm the first lady.
Wow, exactly, the first lady. The first lady of Siddo.
Yeah. And I have such a great CEO who also says, so define the role. So yes, of course, you have a job profile and your job scope, etc. I mean, you Google and you know what a chief operating officer is supposed to do. But one of the things that I wanted to emphasize in this role is the collaborative role I play in bringing all the parties together.
Absolutely.
In making sure that I'm so close to the CFO that my translation of the requirements of the CFO into the business are understood. And vice versa. If I have to say, Madam CFO, let's sit and talk about the reality of a particular situation. And the same thing with CMO. So working closely with colleagues is such an important thing. We recently launched a campaign called Check Into Easy. So it's been part of our sort of rebrand and coming back. After COVID, we had withdrawn a lot of spend in terms of our marketing. Because as you know, when times are rough, marketing and training always suffer, unfortunately. But we did our best with the social platforms. We really did our best. We tried. We were not lost. But coming back into this past financial year, we put a substantial amount of funding behind, being seen again. And we said, let's do a refresh. So we refreshed the brand. We're now called City Lodge Hotels. And that takes into account that we have 4 brands: the Courtyard, the City Lodge, the Town Lodge, and the Road Lodge. And then we said, we need a campaign. And the campaign is Check Into Easy. And that's where all the operators said, let's take 5. What do you mean, marketers?
Yeah.
Well, check into easy. Life's hard. Life is hard, they told us. And when you come to a hotel, you check into easy. I said, okay, before we put it out there,
what does that mean for
make sure we understand it. So we all took a chill and we understood it. First at executive level.
Absolutely.
And then we had a campaign for the people. And we had a time frame in which we were going to unroll it. And we did it successfully in 10 months, but we started with the people. Because you don't want the people saying, check into easy, but my computer doesn't work. Check into easy, but this isn't so easy at an operational level. Okay. So we had to make sure we address any cricks and nicks and get the buy-in, align ourselves. With the marketing strategy, which is a lovely strategy. And then I would say City Lodge Hotels is a very down-to-earth brand. I call it a meat and potatoes brand. It's not, it's 4-star,
it's not caviar.
3-star. It's not caviar, but it's excellent service, great service. It's people, it's human heartthrob, clean. You know what you're going to get. There's no... What you see is what you get.
It's the wow
a shocker.
factor.
Yeah. And so that alignment of the campaign, of the marketing campaign into checking into easy and the staff believing, you have to also keep asking, is life easy for the staff? Have we done everything that we need to do to make sure that operationally it's easy to clean a room? It's easy to serve. It's easy. And I'm not saying we're perfect. But it pushes us into thinking.
And I think it reminds me of our beloved ex-client that you once worked so hard to serve from a marketing perspective, but the operations were really
wasn't
bad.
aligned.
Well, it wasn't aligned, and the blame always fell on marketing. But when people got to experience the brand, the story was different.
And then, of course, to finish it off, you have your guest service platforms. People will tell you. And yes, we have our own bespoke internal feedback platform called Rate Us, where guests will tell us whether they had a good stay or a bad stay.
Yeah.
But we don't rely only on that. There's bookings.com's, feedback. Yeah. There's Google reviews. There's TripAdvisor. And those are so independent. We can't manipulate that. There's nothing we can do. And not that we do manipulate. But what you see is what you get. And so we use that very actively in terms of are we delivering on the promise?
And Hello Peter, how can you forget?
Peter. Hello Peter is not so prominent as it used to be. I must be
really?
Either we're doing very well.
Yeah.
But it's not as prominent as it was.
I think with the advent
ago.
of social media,
So
so people
I think
now
have
go
found
on
other
social media
platforms.
to complain.
I think that's right. Or to talk. You'll read TripAdvisor and it's either scathing or glorifying. You know.
Sure. And what do you do when you get those scathing reviews?
We try very hard to engage. So our general managers are given all the tools in terms of where we can to respond and to use those as tools to improve. So if it has happened and you've lost that particular client, you address it. You try and see if you can get back. Now, TripAdvisor is very anonymous. You don't really know who that person is because they even use pseudonames and so on.
Yeah.
But you can respond, especially on the Google reviews, and give, even if it's a generic response, thank you for your response.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time.
Sure.
Even if it's not a nice response, we're always grateful because it's assisting us in coming back to fine-tune or show our blind spots. Yes.
Do you find that the people that know you, for example, family members that go to the City Lodge, they don't get the best experience?
No, but those are
and they call you.
No, those are what do you call them? Mystery shoppers. They're not.
My family is very disciplined.
Okay.
There's no abuse. My family pays for what they receive.
Yeah.
Even I pay if I'm not on business and I want to demonstrate that this is me buying coffee for a friend. Yeah. I don't use company. If I'm marketing, it's different. If I've invited you to showcase and I'm marketing, then I will pay. But if it's my family, they don't abuse. But people will if they know you.
Hey, I know Lean. I know the COO. I'm going to tell him that the coffee was cold.
I had one or two.
I'm so disappointed, Steve. Come on, they brought me a cold coffee.
So, Sis Lindy, I mean, we've spoken about the differences between finance or the problem child finance and marketing and ops. But, how do we then, what challenges have you seen? And having said that at Birchwood, it was an entrepreneurial environment. How do you then, as an entrepreneur, what are the key challenges, I would say, between ops and marketing that you found?
So I think you touched on it earlier on in terms of making sure that whatever is being sent as a message out to the audience or to your guests or clients must reflect what you are delivering. And so that strong communication between the ops team and the marketing team, I think, is very important. And it can be as basic and simple as who takes the pictures of the rooms and what do the rooms look like. So you wouldn't want to present an artist's impression of what a room looks like if you know that was an artist's impression and you're better off going to that room and having a proper photo shoot of what it looks like, or creating some sort of stock pictures of what the food looks like in Utopia, as opposed to having a proper cook-off with your chef and really bringing reality to the table. And you can do beautiful work because once you do that, you're also really elevating the operations team's ability. In a group like City Lodge Hotels, where next year we celebrate 40 years of existence. You will find sometimes that some of our imagery might still reflect some of the older looking stock pictures. And so my role is to then get closer to marketing and say, come, even if it's going to cost money, let's find a way of making sure that we are portraying the right pictures. And this is in your annual integrated report. This is on social media. We don't do brochures anymore because no one is really printing. But wherever there's imagery of what your product is, as operators, I think ours is to always ensure that we protect the integrity of what we are able to deliver and that it's not either outdated or taken off, pictures that show a swimming pool that's really not our swimming pool. Like a swimming pool which has got bouncy balls and dinosaurs floating in it, which gives kids the impression that when they get there, there'll be bouncing balls and dinosaurs. If that's what it is, then we must say that's what we're going to present for the children.
So, obviously in my head, I'm like thinking, there's been a lot of talks about AI, artificial intelligence. There's pictures that are generated using AI, and some people are saying
having presidents in your pools.
Having Obama chilling in your pool and
sell that.
Absolutely, and actually sell that. And I'm starting to think that actually perhaps if there's one industry that this AI thing wouldn't really work, it could be in the hotel space, because you can't generate a perfect picture, and it won't be a lived reality.
I think AI is good, and I think AI is not going anywhere. It's going to continue being part of our lives. I think what's going to happen is we're going to bump into situations of trial and error. So let's just start with a simple presentation that someone makes. Do you get it off and Chat GPT and then call it your own, or do you reference it and say, if I do a chief operating officer's report, I have to reference what my source is.
Yes.
If I'm going to be quoting particular statistics that I had nothing to do with. So coming to AI and pictures, I haven't experienced that. What we experience more is the social media platforms and people wanting to, do their selfies at our swimming pool and to post. And so we are constantly monitoring that for two reasons. One, that it's not offensive. It's not saying what we are not. It's also another way of managing a guest experience. So social media actually has one person who's a social media officer. All she does, Tammy Taylor, is just look at what's going on those platforms. But also celebrating the ones that, wow, that's a great picture of the girl in the yellow swimming costume splashing herself at City Lodge Morningside. We couldn't have done that. So, let's use it.
UGC.
Got you. User-generated content.
Yeah.
So now, are you guys dabbling with AI in terms of, even from an operations perspective,
So I talked about the predictive insights tool earlier on. That is artificial intelligence.
Got you.
So it's as I said, it's a forecasting tool, and whatever information we put in that we know we are going to have a particular trend in the next month, or even up to 3 months, even 6 months. You can put in the information that you have, and obviously, it gets better a year later because you have a track record. So if you knew that the Durban July takes place in Durban at a particular date, already because you had it in last year in July, this July, it's already going to anticipate that's a high peak time.
Peak season.
Peak season.
Yeah.
We're able
to charge us more.
Yes, we're able to put in our exactly right. Best available rate. Of course,
best available rate.
But best available rate bar works on a range. So we still want to be competitive. We still want you to look at us as a solution to a budget-strapped economy. Where if I want a really nice experience, but I want a decent 3-star experience, I should go to City Lodge hotels because their rates, I know what I'm going to get, even if it's a range. I know that in a particular time it's going to be busy, but I also know in quiet times, if that suits my pocket better. We also have specials, so all of that works using our artificial intelligence tool, Predictive Insights.
Oh,
I mean, as we conclude, Lindy, I think having worked in an international space, and now you're speaking about AI, I remember in my time, my frustration was we have fair Africans, like they were not African, stock imaging. So every time we're like, that person does not look black though. When we're looking at images and you're trying to talk to the South African market, to the South African market whose representation is important. How have you found? Do you find it quite easy, having worked, for example, with Hyatt here in South Africa, in terms of the communication? Were you part of that, or did you find it quite challenging? Because I know in global markets, it's very difficult because you're getting something from global. Now they're saying this is the deck of communication. You're like, but this doesn't talk to the South African person.
So, I mean, that's quite a long time ago in terms of my experience with Hyatt. And I wasn't involved in that detail. But I think hotels are always very sensitive. Hotel groups are always very sensitive to the audiences that they serve. Again, in my current environment, we want to portray ourselves as being diverse, as being inclusive, as being equitable. We don't always get it right, but the pictures and the imagery that we show from our annual integrated report all the way to the picture that you'll find on one of our social platforms is very important.
Yeah.
So if you're portraying a South African white family, then it's a South African white family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're portraying a black couple struggling with making the bed and then they realize actually they want to go and check in the hotel, then it's just a couple in jail. Or you look and you say, hey, they look like me.
Yeah, I can relate.
I think it's very relatable.
Yeah.
We've always tried very hard to be extremely relatable in terms of what we are portraying out to the market.
Sure. Okay.
Wow, amazing.
I mean, you've really touched, I think, and shared the ops importance, because I think, we were talking sometime and I was talking about governance, and we're like, governance is never something we talk about. I think ops also is nothing we've spoken about, but you do operations in your business every day.
And governance is also part of operations.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And
because, you're always looking at the risk.
Yes.
You're always looking at compliance.
Yes.
Compliance has become so much more important.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And it can't happen if the ops people are not attuned to it.
Absolutely. And then that's when, we're like, okay, let's have this conversation around that. And governance, goes across. Governance is in finance, it's in HR, it's in ops. It's really an umbrella.
Yes.
And then ops, then we kind of never really talk about it because it in itself it's a function.
Yes.
You do it every day, but we can't define, the ops. And I remember reading around, operational management and logistic management because they go hand in hand. And just at the end of the day, how can I not cut costs, but do what I need to do well, but at an inexpensive cost, because that means now my customer has to pay for it.
But just to touch on a last point, where does the finance come in? Remember, at the end of the day, we all wake up, we do a job because we have key performance indicators.
Yes, yeah.
And they are very, very hardcore finance, so the revenue generation, cash in the bank, guest service responses and so on. And if your team is also not aware of what the KPIs are operationally, then you as a management team will never achieve those. So we all need to know that we are driving towards revenue generation.
Yes.
How do we do that? Through accommodation, through food and beverage, through conferencing. How do we optimize it? Through our utilization of best available rate if it's accommodation, through the right pricing of conferencing. But more than anything, through the right delivery in terms of the experience, which is why service excellence is one of the KPIs. Because if your guest is not experiencing and receiving that promise that marketing has given out there, you can't then give the finance people the revenues that have been promised to shareholders and to all the stakeholders who entrust the management team to deliver.
And I think I was reading, and because it was a subject, and it was saying that, ops is the engine. Because, if then they say, no, we need to cut costs, now you're cutting the cleaning team, but now the service delivery is not at its best. So everything is affected at the end of the day. So I'm just thinking of this like mastermind who must sit there now and say, okay, cool, this is the problem, or this is what finance has said, we need to save NOP or save the bottom line. And now you have to figure out how do you still then commit to the brand promise.
Yes.
But also then making sure that you are achieving your KPIs from a finance perspective. Because at the end of the day, they're just like, this is Lindy, asna mali.
And your guests, your people and the guests, your people being the staff and the guests, must never ever feel that you are so focused on revenue generation and profitability at the expense of the guest experience and their own experience in delivering. So your staff must have the tools.
Yeah.
They must have the ability to do what they're supposed to do.
Now you're still giving them an old, Macintosh to
punch at, and it doesn't. They say to the guests, hold on, the computer is slow.
Still processing.
It's still thinking.
Now there's a long line. Man, now there's no cups to give them a drink whilst they're waiting for the Macintosh.
Exactly. So it's always a fine balance. But again, we say, let's give you as many tools that allow you, if you've got a tool that predicts the occupancy, then you can also predict your labor. You don't have to have a full restaurant of waiters if you're going to be quiet over Easter.
So you have
give
to
people
look
time
at that.
off. Yeah, so
Trend.
look at that, and because those are variable costs that you can manage.
Absolutely.
So wherever there are variable costs, and people are utilizing the tools that they have, they will be able to then optimize the profitability because they are constantly managing and balancing, but never at the expense of service delivery.
How powerful.
Never at the expense of service delivery.
Yeah.
Amandla.
Thank you so much, Sis Lindy. I mean,
thank you.
like we said, you're our first guest who really talks about ops. And
I think
showing that link, showing that link between, and like I say, it's almost like the glue between all the departments, it kind of links back to brand promise. It also links back to the KPIs of the finance department. Yeah. I mean, there are other functions and operations, of course, but we're just discussing this one that we sometimes kind of overlook, or we've never interpreted, or we've never really talked about, and the importance of operations and how it links back then to marketing and the business.
It's a great discussion. I really appreciated it myself.
Yeah, and I think what you've started here is for us also to start thinking broadly in terms of a series called What is the Relationship Between and Marketing?
Yes.
Now we need a CFO.
Yes.
Come sit there and tell us why. Budget.
Shame.
We need a chief people's officer. And I think
it's wonderful because people, we're all hungry for information.
Absolutely.
And I think we have so much to learn from each other.
Absolutely. And who best to learn from than those who walk the path?
There you go.
Okay,
well
cool.
done to you too. I think this is a wonderful platform that you've created. And
Thank you.
Thank you
well
so
done
much.
for allowing us to and allowing me to come and share my experiences with you.
No, we thank you for honoring the invite.
It's been an honor.
I know now I found a friend in the hospitality industry.
Oh, but you have many friends.
But
let's not take any more time. We have our last part.
She responds to my WhatsApp, so she's a friend.
Our last part, is our quizzical, our Pat on Brands quiz, where we give Pat, if you get it right, let's see if you know your brands. We do slap, but it's a virtual slap. We do not condone violence. We do say as a disclaimer. But of course, this is what we do. We talk about brands. We love brands. And that's what we're going to check. If you love brands.
Oh, dear.
As a consumer, I mean, you should love brands. Everybody's a consumer.
Let's see if you've read me right.
Okay. Number one. Okay, I'm going to start with, I liked this one. Which bank recently launched WhatsApp chat wallet? Is it African Bank? Is it FNB? Is it Discovery Bank? Or is it ABSA?
FNB.
I would have also thought FNB, but unfortunately not.
Who is it?
It's ABSA, funny enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what is it called?
It's called the WhatsApp chat wallet.
Okay.
WhatsApp chat wallet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that wallet threw you off a bit.
I think I just thought e-wallet, FNB.
But also I think because FNB is known for its
always coming up with
innovation.
Yeah.
So
now the competitor is now thinking.
Africanacity is like, no.
Hey,
Okay.
Story matters, no longer African.
Oh, story matters. Yeah. Oh yes, we did say last week. Sorry. Let's go. Next one.
Okay, cool. Actually, SAT. African Tourism.
Let's see.
Just appointed
It's
a
you.
new CMO.
Yeah.
What's her name? I already gave it away.
Her name is Nombulelo Kuliwe, and she was previously the CFO.
No, CMO.
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 Not CEO.
Yeah.
There's a new sheriff in town.
Yeah.
Serious?
It's
It's very recent.
Yeah,
so we can't blame you. Maybe you're still going to catch up with the news later.
She started.
No, Mina, I'm supposed to know the news before it hits the news.
I know. Fair.
She started yesterday.
Yeah.
And I had
Where did she come from? Give me a hint.
FMCG.
Yeah.
Okay, let me give you the name.
Yeah, give you the name.
Maybe.
It'll click.
Just maybe. It'll click. Is it Togo Nchinga? Is it Tembisa Mtembu? Or is it Tembisile Sihlohoni Sitole?
I don't want to pretend.
No, my because I am.
She's from, here's a
Hint.
Yeah, FMCG is from Tiger Brands. She was a brand director there. And she was also a judge at the YOBAs.
So your first one was
Togo.
Togo and Chinga.
It must be her.
Are you sure?
Stop the misery. The FOMO feeling.
Let's try again. Is it Togo and Chinga? Is it Tembisam Tembu? Or is it Tembisile Sihloho Ni Sithole?
The second one.
Tembisam Tembu.
Yes.
It was very close.
It
was very close. But it is.
You're being kind. I next.
It's Tem.
Tem.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Master.
Women at the helm of South African tourism. That's wonderful.
Yeah, hopefully things
including the chairperson from the filming and arts commission. Yeah.
NFVF?
Is that what it stands for?
The not the national film.
It's the national film
and
NFC.
Oh, NFC. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
NFC.
Third question: which of the following is not one of South Africa's UNESCO World Heritage Sites? Table Mountain, Victoria Falls, or the Kruger National Park?
Victoria Falls.
We thought,
God.
You know what?
Thank God, I'm salvaging
There needs to be
myself.
a salvaging one.
Yeah.
Two more.
Mm-hmm. Who's the South African female musician that recently won a Grammy Award for Best African Music Performance? And actually, she's the young
Tyler.
African. Okay.
I think you almost deserve two there.
And didn't she come back this week?
Yeah, she was at Mall of Africa.
No, it's actually Tembisiete.
I've been following this little girl. I was so proud of her.
Yeah, wow, that's just doing great.
Okay, last question. True or false? City Lodge Hotel Group has 7,540 rooms.
Say it again.
True or false? City Lodge Hotel Group has 7,540 rooms.
I'm going to be so embarrassed if I'm true.
COO.
I know it's 7,000 something.
Well, there we go then. Congratulations.
Hey, we almost caught you on that one.
You know why it's not a clean number?
Yeah.
In COVID, we let go of 3 of our properties. We used to have the City Lodge in Dar es Salaam, the City Lodge in Nairobi, and another the Fairview and Town Lodge. It was actually 4 in total.
Oh, shame.
And I actually have it written on, if you come to my office, I have a board with the continent and the numbers, just in case.
Just in case. I'm going to take a picture and then I'll let you know.
Yeah. Okay, cool. How do people connect with you for those that want to, get to know you even
beyond?
Yeah.
Who want to have a cup of coffee with Sis Lindy so that they are in awe every time.
I'd love to have coffee with you, but I don't know if I'll be able to have coffee with everyone.
Yeah.
But I'm on all social media platforms, but in my professional capacity, I'm on LinkedIn.
Uh-huh.
You will find me there under Lindiwe Sangweni-Siddo.
Uh-huh.
And if you want to get in touch with me professionally at City Lodge, I am L Sangweni-Siddo at citylodgehotels.com.
Okay, great. So
Just
if you want to be a supplier, if you want to be a supplier.
Mara, why are you setting me up?
I was going to say, let's start with LinkedIn, appropriate places.
I'm not the procurement department.
Okay. But thank you so much for making the time. I think this was one for the books, but everyone that comes here,
there's something different.
The energy is different. The experiences are different, and there's always something to learn. But I think for those that watched the episode till the end, now have a better perspective of the relationship between operations and marketing, and how both worlds, come together. Is collide the right word?
Yeah, they
come together.
Crash into each other
to create a great experience.
We get on very well.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking about, like to create
collaborate with
each other.
This is not my mother tongue.
and create great experiences for customers, or deliver great products to customers. I think, we really learned a ton. Yeah, if you did, please don't be shy. Leave a comment and give us a shout out. Give us a pat. And don't forget, we are less than 2 weeks, from the closure of the nominations for the Top 16 Own Brands Awards. On the 17th of April, we're closing nominations. So there won't be any late openings. I don't need, please don't call me and say, I wanted to, can you please just sneak in my entry? Because it happened before. Can you believe it? And thank God I'm not involved in the judging process. So and if you are also feeling generous and you have some left over
bonuses,
yes, and you want to invest in a worthy cause, because what we're doing with the YOBAs is that we're driving the narrative around youth employment and also building brands that will become globally competitive, made in South Africa. So from me, Pat Mahlangu. And
for myself, goodbye, everybody.
Pat. It's Pat on Brands. Watch how you branded, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man. Better be branded, man. A pat from the pat is a pat on the brand.